Every conversation carries a consequence. Every viewpoint searches for facts. Discovering your legal standing, delivering rightful justice.
Keep your hands where I can see them. Get on the ground now.
Officer, I'm Dr. Martin Jacobs. I work here. This is my house.
I don't care who you say you are. Stop resisting and get down.
I'm not resisting. I'm standing in my hallway. Look. ID badge, stethoscope, lab coat. I am a doctor.
I said on the ground.
Hands behind your back.
Security cameras capture the moment a uniformed officer storms down a hospital hallway, shouting commands at a man in scrubs. The man lifts his hands, flashes his ID badge and calmly says, "I'm a doctor. I work here." But the officer doesn't listen. Because in that moment, he's not seeing a physician. He's seeing a suspect. What happens next will cost the department $2.4 million. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Officer Lucas Brandt wasn't supposed to be in that hallway. His original call was to check on a suspicious individual reported by a janitorial staff member. Routine, minor. A quick walkthrough at most, but Brandt had a pattern. One the department never publicly addressed. Complaints that were unsubstantiated. Bodycam clips that went mysteriously missing. Colleagues who whispered his name the way people talk about storms. Predictable, but dangerous. As he walked down the polished corridor, his boots hitting the tile with a sharp authority, Brandt's eyes fixed immediately on the lone figure coming toward him. A man in scrubs, hospital badge clipped plainly to his chest, but somehow, to Brandt, none of that mattered. The man he saw, Dr. Adrian Cole, 52, emergency physician with over 2 decades of trauma experience, was reviewing lab results on his tablet, walking with the focused calm that only someone who has saved more lives than he can remember carries. He'd just finished stabilizing a teenage crash victim and was heading to check on another patient when he noticed the officer approaching. Dr. Cole looked up, offering the standard polite nod that medical staff give to security or law enforcement passing through. "Evening, officer," he said, voice clear, respectful, still half thinking about his patient's vitals. But the nod wasn't returned. "Hey, stop right there," Brandt snapped, his tone already several notches too high for a quiet hospital environment. Dr. Cole paused, blinking, unsure if he was the intended target. "Is everything all right?" he asked, gently lowering his tablet. Brandt closed the distance quickly. "I said stop, don't move." Cole lowered his hands slightly, palms open, the natural gesture of someone used to de-escalating anxious families and panicked paramedics. "Officer, I work here. I'm on shift. Is something wrong?" Brandt's eyes flicked to the hospital ID badge, then back to Cole's face, as if the badge were a prop, not proof. "What are you doing in this hallway?" he demanded. "This is the emergency wing," Cole replied, keeping his voice calm. "I'm an ER doctor. My name is—" "I didn't ask for your life story," Brandt cut in sharply. Several nurses down the hallway turned their heads but hesitated, unsure whether to step in or stay silent. They'd seen this officer around before. They'd learned to avoid becoming part of his scenes. "Doctor," Cole took a steady breath. "Sir, I'm showing you my ID. I'm literally in my scrubs. I just left a patient's—" "Stop resisting," Brandt barked, though Cole hadn't moved an inch. A flicker of disbelief crossed Cole's face. "Resisting? I'm standing still." Brandt's hand hovered near his taser, the gesture enough to send a ripple of alarm through the few staff members lingering nearby. One nurse placed a hand over her mouth. Another subtly pulled out her phone. Cole held up both hands now, trying to anchor the situation back to reality. "Officer, listen, my name is Dr. Adrian Cole. I've been working here 15 years. I don't know what report you received, but you're mistaken." Brandt stepped even closer, invading his space, jaw clenched. "I don't care what your name is. You're somewhere you shouldn't be, and you're not obeying commands." Cole's heartbeat kicked up, not from guilt, but from the realization that logic wasn't reaching this man. "Is this because, I'm black?" he asked quietly, unable to keep the frustration from cracking through. Brandt's nostrils flared. "I said, get on the ground, now!" And suddenly the hallway felt smaller, the lights felt harsher, the word doctor meant nothing, the badge meant nothing. The years of service, the lives saved, gone in an instant, as if erased by the officer's refusal to see him as anything but a threat. Cole swallowed, still holding his hands high. "I am not getting on the ground in my own hospital. You are making a mistake." Brandt reached for him. And the cameras, hospital security, patients' families' phones, and nurses too afraid to intervene, but not too afraid to record, captured the moment that would spark outrage, lawsuits, and a city-wide reckoning. Nothing about what happened next would be forgotten. Nothing would be forgiven. If you believe that standing up for what's right can change everything, share this story and let others know that justice can prevail. The moment Officer Brandt grabbed Dr. Cole's arm, everything in the hallway shifted. The quiet hum of machines, the soft beeping from patient rooms, the low chatter of nurses, gone. Replaced by the sharp scrape of boots, the clatter of a tablet hitting the floor, and the raw tension of a confrontation no one expected to witness in a place meant for saving lives. Dr. Cole instinctively pulled back, not to resist, but because Brandt's grip was sudden and aggressive, the kind that made every muscle lock up in shock. "Officer, hold on," he said quickly, trying to keep his voice level. "You're hurting me. Please, listen, I'm a physician. I'm on duty." Brandt didn't loosen his grip. "You don't tell me what to do," he shot back. "Turn around and get on the ground." Cole blinked hard, trying to understand how a simple walk down the hallway had escalated into this. "I've done nothing wrong," he said. "Why are you—" "Stop resisting!" Brandt yelled again, louder this time, as if shouting the words could turn a lie into truth. Nurse Elena, who had been charting at the station, stepped forward now, unable to stay still. "Officer, that's Dr. Cole," she said, voice trembling. "He's been here longer than I have. He literally just left Trauma Bay 2. Brandt snapped his glare toward her. "Back away, this doesn't concern you." Her courage faltered, but she didn't move. "It does when you're grabbing one of our physicians like a criminal." Cole turned slightly toward her, an inch at most, and that movement was all Brandt needed to twist the narrative further. "You're still resisting," Brandt barked, wrenching Cole's arm higher behind his back. A sharp jolt of pain shot through Cole's shoulder, forcing him to exhale in a hiss. "Officer, stop," he said, the calm cracking. "I'm not resisting. I'm talking, that's all I'm doing." But the more he spoke, the more Brandt escalated. "Put your other hand behind your back, now!" he shouted. The command was absurd. Cole's other hand was already raised in the air. Around them, the nurses gathered, forming a hesitant semicircle. Phones lifted. Hands shook. No one interfered, not because they didn't want to, but because they knew how quickly interfering with a cop could make things worse. Cole's voice dropped to a firm, controlled tone, the one he used on combative patients. "Officer Brandt, you are detaining me unlawfully." Brandt smirked. "I'll decide what's lawful." Cole's jaw tightened. "My ID is right there on my chest. Read it." "Doesn't matter." "Why not?" Brandt leaned in, too close, too hostile, his breath hot with adrenaline and something darker. "Because you're acting suspicious. You're refusing commands and you're somewhere you shouldn't be." Cole stared at him, stunned. "Somewhere I shouldn't be? I'm a black doctor in a hospital. That's the problem, isn't it?" Brandt's grip tightened. And the hallway, normally a place of controlled urgency, flooded with a new kind of tension. Fear. A respiratory therapist peeked around the corner, eyes widening at the sight. Two surgical techs stood frozen at the sterile supply door. A patient's family member whispered, "Is that a doctor? Oh my God." Cole's pulse raced now. Not from guilt, but from humiliation. From the knowledge that this moment, this public takedown in the place he had dedicated his life to, would scar him deeper than any wound he'd treated. Still, he tried one last time to reason. "Listen, Officer Brandt, if you check with literally anyone on this floor—" "Quiet," Brandt snapped. "You move or speak again and I'll put you down harder." Cole felt heat rise in his chest. Anger, disbelief, and a sickening sense of danger all at once. His shoulders ached from the pressure of Brandt's grip. He could feel the officer's aggression radiating like static. "I'm complying," Cole said through clenched teeth. "But I don't have to get on the ground in my own hospital." Brandt shoved him toward the wall. The impact reverberated through Cole's ribs and echoed down the corridor. Gasps filled the air. Someone swore under their breath. A phone dropped. A patient in a wheelchair turned to see what the noise was, his wife shielding his eyes too late. Then Brandt placed his hand on his holster. That single movement froze the entire hallway. Cole stilled instantly, the instinctive reaction of a man who had survived long enough to know what comes next if he doesn't. His voice went low, nearly a whisper. "Officer, Don't make this worse. Brant's reply was chilling. It's already worse. And just as Brant began to pull the cuffs from his belt, a hospital administrator rounded the corner. Someone who knew exactly who Dr. Cole was. Someone who had no intention of standing by silently. But by the time she reached them, damage had already been done. And it was only the beginning. The hallway had never felt so small. The hospital administrator, Marlene Avery, didn't run, but her steps were sharp and fast, the kind that signalled something was very wrong before she even saw what was happening. She followed the cluster of nurses, their hushed voices, the tension thick in the air. Then she saw it. Dr. Cole pinned against the wall, his arm twisted uncomfortably behind him, and Officer Brant towering over him with handcuffs ready. Marlene froze for half a second. Not because she was unsure, but because she needed that brief moment to process the impossibility of what she was seeing. Then she surged forward. "Officer!" she shouted. "What do you think you're doing?" Brant didn't even turn around. "Ma'am, step back. This man is resisting." Marlene's anger sharpened. "That man is Dr. Nathan Cole. He's one of our attending emergency physicians." Brant laughed under his breath as if she'd told a joke. "Nice try." Cole closed his eyes briefly, the humiliation burning deeper. "I told you," he said quietly, breath tight from the pressure on his arm. "You just didn't want to believe it." Marlene stepped closer, refusing to be dismissed. "Look at his ID. Look at the hallway he's in. Look at literally any staff member surrounding you right now." Brant finally turned his head, but only slightly, still keeping Cole pinned. "He matched the description of a trespasser." "A trespasser?" Marlene barked. "This is his workplace. You're assaulting an on-duty physician." Brant bristled. "He refused my commands." "Which commands, officer?" Nurse Elena cut in, voice shaking, not with fear this time, but fury. "The command to get on the ground in his own hospital, or the command to stop talking while you bent his arm behind his back?" Brant shot her a glare, but the damage was already done. The staff was no longer a quiet audience. They were becoming witnesses, and every second that passed, more phones were recording. Cole swallowed hard, trying to steady his breathing. "Marlene," he said, voice low, "my patients. I need to get back to them." The pain in his shoulder flared again as Brant tightened his hold. "Not going anywhere," Brant muttered. "He's being detained." "For what?" Marlene demanded. Brant didn't answer. Because he didn't have an answer, and everyone knew it. A security guard finally appeared, one of their own, Mike Torres, a former Marine with the calm presence of someone who ran toward danger rather than caused it. His eyes widened at the sight. "Officer Brant," Mike said carefully, "I know you're responding to a call, but Dr. Cole works here. He's cleared. I can verify that." Brant's jaw clenched. "You stay out of this. This is police business." "It became hospital business," Marlene said coldly, "the moment you put your hands on our doctor." Cole winced again as Brant shoved him harder against the wall. His ID badge, still clipped to his chest, dug painfully into his ribs. The badge he had pointed to 3 times, the badge Brant refused to acknowledge. "This is unbelievable," Cole muttered, his voice strained. "I'm being attacked in my own hospital." "That's enough," Marlene snapped. "Officer, release him." Brant didn't move. Mike took a slow step forward, hands visible, tone calm but firm. "Officer, you're escalating a non-threatening situation. He hasn't resisted. There's no cause for detention. Let him go." Brant's hand drifted toward his holster again, subtle but unmistakable. Cole felt the shift, instantly. His pulse hammered. The hallway went silent as stone. "No," Cole said quickly, eyes locked on Mike. "Don't push him. He's trying to assert control. Just let him talk." But Marlene wasn't about to stand down. Her voice was quieter now, but colder. "You're making a catastrophic mistake." Those words finally made Brant hesitate. Not because he respected her authority, he didn't, but because he realized something. Everyone was watching. Everyone was filming. And Marlene Avery was a woman who filed reports that were actually read by the people who mattered. Brant exhaled sharply, then released Cole's arm with a frustrated shove. Cole staggered forward, catching himself on the wall. His shoulder throbbed. His hands shook. He straightened slowly, adjusting his white coat, trying to pull himself back into dignity, even as his body trembled from the adrenaline. He didn't look at Brant. Instead, he looked at his staff. his colleagues, the people who had trusted him with their lives and their patients. "I'm okay," he said, though the strain in his voice made it clear he wasn't. Brandt stepped back but didn't apologize, didn't even soften. Instead he said, "This isn't over." Marlene squared her shoulders. "You're right," she replied. "It's not." Cole finally turned his eyes on Brandt, calm, steady, and penetrating in a way that made the hallway feel colder. "You targeted the wrong man today," he said quietly. Brandt smirked. "We'll see." But he didn't realize he was already losing. Because before Cole could even walk away, the hospital legal team was being paged. And by the end of the night, someone would be reviewing every second of footage, not just for protocol, but for accountability. And the price for this wrongful arrest would be higher than anyone knew yet. The investigation began before the night shift even ended. Marlene had already sent the incident footage, every angle from the nurses, from security cameras, and from patient families, straight to the hospital's legal inbox. And by morning, Dr. Nathan Cole found himself sitting in a quiet conference room with 2 attorneys, a union representative, and a recorder blinking red on the table. But unlike so many black men wrongfully detained, he wasn't fighting to prove who he was. He was fighting to prove what had been done to him. The hospital's chief legal counsel, Terence Bloom, sat across from him, glasses low on his nose. "Dr. Cole," he said, voice steady, "I need you to walk me through everything. Every word he said, every physical contact, every command." Nathan didn't dramatize anything. He didn't need to. He described the exact moment Brandt grabbed him. The pressure on his arm, the shove into the wall, the officer ignoring his ID, ignoring Nurse Elena, ignoring reality. When he finished, Terence leaned back. "This is unlawful detention, physical assault, professional interference, racial discrimination, and a direct violation of hospital policy. He had no authority to detain you." Nathan kept his voice calm, but his hands trembled slightly under the table. "I just want this stopped. Not just for me. For the next person he decides to target." Terence nodded. "And that," he said, "is exactly what we're going to do." By noon, the hospital formally filed a complaint. By evening, the footage had reached the police department's Internal Affairs Division. And by the next morning, Officer Brandt walked into his precinct and noticed people staring at him, not out of respect, but caution. Internal Affairs called him in. The detective across the table didn't smile. "We've reviewed the footage," she said bluntly. "All of it?" Brandt crossed his arms. He fit a description. He refused commands. The detective slid a file across the table. A description of a man who wasn't even in the building, and the doctor complied repeatedly. "Your use of force was unjustified." Brandt's jaw tightened. He was acting suspicious. "You ignored his hospital ID," she said. "You ignored nurses verifying him. You ignored staff who knew him. You escalated without reason, and you threatened lethal force." "That's not what happened," he snapped. She pressed play on a screen mounted on the wall. There he was. Brandt pinning Cole to the wall, shouting that he didn't care who he was, threatening him, grabbing his holster, just steps away from patients, families, witnesses. Brandt's face drained of colour watching himself. Internal Affairs didn't argue. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't need to. Everything was right there on video. Back at the hospital, the board met privately with Nathan. They offered him full support, paid leave, medical coverage for the injury to his shoulder, and, most importantly, their backing if he pursued legal action. Nathan didn't hesitate. Because this time it wasn't about pride. It was about protection. Protection for every black colleague, every black patient, every black teenager walking home at night. The lawsuit hit the department like a lightning strike. $2.4 million in damages, loss of income, pain and suffering, career interference, public humiliation. The hospital publicly backed him, issuing a statement condemning the officer's actions. The story spread across social media. News outlets replayed the hospital footage on loop. And the community, patients, staff, families, rallied behind Dr. Cole. Then the final blow landed. Officer Brandt was suspended without pay. An internal memo leaked he was facing termination. And when the city settled the lawsuit because they knew they had no chance in court, Brandt became the department's liability example, a case study in misconduct, a headline no police chief wanted to answer for. But the worst part for him wasn't the money. It was the silence that followed. Colleagues avoided him. Supervisors stopped speaking to him. His name became associated with one phrase: the officer who assaulted a doctor in his own hospital hallway. Months later, Nathan returned to work. The first day back, he walked the same hallway where everything had happened. Same lights, same tile floors, same scent of disinfectant. But the staff didn't look at him with pity. They looked at him with pride. Nurse Eleanor hugged him. "Welcome back," she whispered. Mike Torres gave him a nod. "Justice served, Doc." And for the first time since that night, Nathan let himself breathe fully and deeply without the weight of humiliation pressing on his chest. He hadn't just survived the encounter. He had turned it into accountability, into precedent, into change. And the hospital, the place he had dedicated his life to, stood with him, stronger than before. If you believe that standing up for what's right can change everything, share this story and let others know that justice can prevail.
Justice requires constant vigilance, and credible information is your best defense. Thank you for watching and fostering a transparent society.